Okay, I'm in. Can you see me?
Cred Talks, our 7th episode. We are sitting talking to Mr. Freeway Rick Ross, who has been a staple in this community as of lately, but you know, he has a past, and his past kind of allows him to speak to what we often go through worldwide, and worldwide as young black men. So he's different in that sense, and we had to speak to him with our brother Enoch Muhammad doing the presentation, doing the hosting of it. So we want to thank both of you guys for coming. So by the end, we will have a question and answer session at the end. It looks like it's going to be a little different because of time constraints. West Coast time and Central time, it's going to be a little different because of time constraints. So we'll have a speaking, we can openly speak and ask questions and speak from that at about 1:30. So at that time, we'll open the floor to have a time where we can actually talk and possibly do a part 2 next week so we can get more in depth into these situations.
Hey, I can ask. Yeah, perfect. So to make sure that we get started where we want to end, let's see here. Have you did the, I know Sherry, you wanted to make sure you adjusted things. Was it adjusted already?
Yep, we're good to go.
Okay, cool. Okay. So first of all, thank you again, Brother Rick, for being on deck for this particular call, which is a very important call because we got brothers who, you know, they have made, you know, maybe had some misunderstandings, made some missteps, but they're working to get their life, you know, in a better, you know, projection and things better. So at the end of the day, what message do you have for whether it's a woman, a man that, you know, they're dealing with the injustice system, you know, they're dealing with whether they on parole, they, you know, they on house arrest, or, you know, they trying to get out that lifestyle, you know, that would, you know, put them in a position to be incarcerated. They're working to get out of that. What would be your message that you would give on that they know your experience, your background, you know, some of the key steps?
Well, one of the most important things that I've learned now, and I only wish I would have known this 40, 50 years ago, is that I'm the architect of my life. That I could literally draw the blueprint of what I see for my future. And once I learned that, and once I started to do that, it allowed me to reach goals and heights that I had never thought about before. And it don't matter where you at in life. You could be sitting in prison, looking at a life sentence, or have a life sentence. I had a life sentence without the possibility of parole. I was able to read my own obituary. And let me read my obituary. I don't know if you can see this here, but this is LA Magazine wrote my obituary. It's funny, they got this guy, Seth, what is his name?
Seth Meyers or something?
Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is on the front page of my obituary. If you get a chance, you should go on there and read it. It's LA Magazine, 2013. And the story is The Crack King is Back. Well, they had wrote my obituary and they counted me out, but I knew that I was still breathing, and I knew as long as I was breathing that I would have an opportunity to rewrite my future. And that's what I started to do. I started to write out the future that I saw for myself. And I no longer allowed my community to dictate to me the life that I should be living. What I found out is I was selling cocaine because everybody in my neighborhood was cool. They said it was cool. Would help everybody accomplishing the goals that they want to accomplish. And you got to be a dreamer. You know, you got to let your dreams go. If you think too small, you're gonna accomplish small.
Okay, I got you loud and clear. And you know, wherever you was at, that was your sweet spot because you was going in and out. So wherever you was at, by that window or whatever, your sweet spot.
I'm at the window right now.
Okay, cool. What would you say is the biggest thing you would want people to know about you and about who you are? What's the biggest thing?
Well, I'm human. You know, I made mistakes, you know, and I've done some things right. My intentions have never been wicked or with evil intent. That I've always wanted to be a successful and a being of means. You know, I never wanted to be average. I've always wanted to be special. So that's something that a lot of people may not know about me.
Okay. And I don't know, some may not know that you were a prodigy tennis player. And
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people don't know that, you know, you could have been a pro and been spectacular at it. However, the circumstances, you know, you can tell them what those circumstances were that prevented you from an athletic perspective, you know, from taking that route.
Well, I couldn't read or write when I was in high school. So it was no way that I was going to go to college and play tennis. And that kind of detoured my tennis career. But it was other things that had I known what I know today, that I still could have accomplished those goals. You know, when I had looked back at my life, I found out that even with not being able to read and to be in the 12th grade, is that I had accomplished some goals, because it is not easy to go from kindergarten to the 12th grade without being able to read. And what I found out about myself is that I like to cut corners. I like to go straight to the point. I don't like going through all the details, the rigmarole that a lot of people go through, and I want to get to the top. And once I figured that out, I started to use those same skills in everything that I do to go straight to the top.
So why was it so important to learn how to read? And when you finally learned how to read, what power did you access that was, you know, so important? Because, you know, you was at your height, you was doing $3 million a day. You had everything from laundromats, hotels, you know, mechanic, you know, shops. I mean, anything you wanted, you had. But, you know, what's so important about, you know, knowing how to read? You know, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate a little bit. What's the power in that? And
Well, what I found out is when I was growing up in elementary school, and the books that they were talking about reading was Jack and Jill and Old MacDonald's, and those characters had no meaning to me. I didn't understand them. For me, the things that had mattered to me was that our lights had got cut off. We were getting eviction notices. We didn't have food in the house. We had broken windows. We had rats. We had roaches, and those things mattered to me. When I was growing up, I didn't care about reading their books. I didn't want to know what they were going up the hill to do. I wanted to know, how could I help my family? But after I went to prison, and I found out that the way for me to get out of prison was through the law library, and that the only way I could use the law library was through reading and writing, I instantly went to work and taught myself how to read and write. And I found out that not only was there books about Jack and Jill, but there were also books that could show me how to use principles that could allow me to accomplish the goals that I had set for myself.
Okay. When it comes to your work ethic, you know, what is it that you noticed about yourself that separated you, in a sense, from many others? And I'm talking about even looking at you today as far as the man you are. Like, what work ethic do you have that makes you, you know, it makes you the man that you are?
Well, I'm gonna be tireless. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep working until I accomplish my goals. You know, when I got out of prison, my goal was to become wealthy, because when I got out, my mom lost her house, you know, a couple months after I was out of prison. And I have been working to accumulate wealth. And now, you know, I don't just see myself as being wealthy, but I know now that I could probably one day be one of the richest people on the planet.
So if you know, when you think about the books that you read, like what was vital for you after learning, after getting some, you know, getting literacy, you know, how did those books play into you being the man that you are now? Like what were those books? Maybe some of those books, 'cause some of the guys may want to read them if they don't know them already. What were those books and how did it help you to become the man that you are today?
Well, the main thing is that whenever I read a book, I put myself in the pages. I try to find a character that closest relates to me. When you're reading law books, I start off reading law books, and when you're reading law books, you're looking for case law, and case law, you're looking for somebody whose case resembles your case. You know, where maybe he called a guy and they talked about this and they talked about that. Well, if you talked about the same thing on your call that this guy talked about, and then the courts ruled on what happened in his case, excuse me, I've been up since 4. The same principles that affected his case would affect your case. So once I learned that when you read, you look for characters that resembles you. So when I started reading business books, I took on the same principle. I looked for guys in those books who character related the same as my character, and I learned that I could do that. Then I could take the same principles that they use and use them for myself.
And what would be some of those books that you would suggest, whether it's an audio book or a book that brothers pick up? What would be some of those books that are good for them to read outside or along with some of your books as well?
Well, you know, I ain't gonna push my book on them, even though my books could be just as important as those books for somebody coming from our neighborhood who may need to get it in layman's terms. But some of those books are Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, and As a Man Think are definitely 3 of the books that I would recommend for all of the young people to read. And if they had time after that, they could go read my 2 books, Freeway Ricky, Raw's Untold Autobiography, and the 21 Keys to Success. But those books allowed me to go back over my life and see the things that I did right and to see the things that I did wrong.
That's big. What narrative do you tell yourself today that's totally opposite of the narrative that you was telling yourself when you first started, you know, selling drugs?
Well, the one thing that I do now, and really the only thing that I really do different per se, is I don't sell drugs anymore. Well, I won't say that. Weed, because weed is still considered a drug, but I'm a licensed weed dealer here in California. But that's what I did. I took cocaine out of my game plan. I already had a good game plan, even though it's been refined a little bit. But I had to take drugs out because drugs would send me back to prison, and it wasn't good for people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, most definitely. Lastly, before we get to Brother Ali with a couple of questions from the brothers, what are you working on now that you would want the brothers to know about, and those on the call? What are you working on now, some of the things that you're doing?
Well, this Saturday I'll be doing a forum on Zoom. We plan on having 6,000 people on the call. We're gonna have some of the leaders of the community to be talking about a Black agenda. I think it's very important since the latest incidents that have taken place, you know, in Minnesota, as well as in Georgia, where the brother got gunned down by 3 vigilantes. And then the other brother who got choked out the other day, you know, really on national TV, he was executed right in front of everybody. I thought that it was time for us to come up with an agenda for ourselves and to stop letting these people dictate to us what should take place. A lot of times, you know, our so-called leaders don't speak up, and they're not trying to put together an agenda for us in the city. I mean, most of the people who have the power and the platform right now believe that they got theirs and you should get yours.
you know, with you bringing that up, you know, my son brought me the video because a lot of teenagers were sharing it all over social media. And my son is 16, and when he shared it with me, I saw the look on his face, look in his eyes, and you know, for those who want to check out that virtual event, I've been invited to be part of it and others. And so, you know, I think it is very important for us to look at that relationship, you know, in terms of not only the community and the lack sometimes of community, but just inside the home, because we have children who have been, you know, sheltered in place in Chicago, all over the state of Illinois, all over the country, and they're beginning to get cabin fever. And you got a lot of things that are going on that if the relationships aren't right, you know, we're not going to be able to deal with our youth in the proper way. So before, you know, I stop with my questions, can you speak on just your childhood and your relationship with your mother and dad just for a moment? Because I think it's important to add that to what we're talking about.
Well, you know, I didn't have a dad. I grew up without my dad. My mom and my dad broke up when I was 4 years old. I mean, 4 months old. So I never really knew my dad. He passed while I was in prison. But my mom was a caring person, a Christian, who tried to raise really 6 kids, you know, on her own. Times were hard, money was short, but she tried to do the best she could. But she didn't know how to raise an entrepreneur. You know, I had made up my mind at a young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I did grass cutting, wash cars, and hustle bottles and cans. I mean, anything to make a couple bucks, because I learned at an early age that economics was very important in this society, and I wanted to capture and control some of that economics. So that's pretty much the relationship with my mom and my dad.
Do you feel like just growing up that when it comes to the power of critical thinking, like, do you think that that was one of your strengths? And if so, how important is it to be a critical thinker?
Well, yeah, critical thinking is definitely an important part of life. Without being able to think, you can't make any decisions. You really depend on other people to think for you, and a lot of us do. You know, that's why we you know, have heroes that do all kind of stuff. You know, get high, get drunk, beat women, kill people. There was times that I could have allowed my guys to kill somebody that could have really changed the course of my life, where I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys today.
So when you saw the movie Superfly, you know, how old were you, and how did that challenge your critical thinking skills at that age?
Well, I saw the movie Superfly. I was about 14 years old. And for the first time, I saw a black man, you know, I mean, almost like what we saw with the one guy getting choked out the other day, where I saw a black man in the 70s stand up to the cops and tell them that they better not touch a hair on his head. You know, if the brother that they had in that chokehold would have had that same power, you know, those cops would not have been with his knee in his neck. But they felt that the brother had no power, no way of retaliating, and they took total advantage of that.
So you was 14 when you saw Superfly, and a lot of the guys on here, they've seen movies like Paid in Full. Of course, a lot of us have seen everything from Boys in the Hood to Menace to Society and a whole bunch of other movies that, you know, were very influential. And so, you know, when it comes to your life story and just the reality that, you know, you had decisions that you made that made it where you're even out here. Because when I met you in 2009, you had just got out of prison that March of 2009, correct?
Correct.
So when we hooked up in, I think it was October, well, we talked on the phone, you know.
No, I got out in May.
May of 2009. Okay, and then we hooked up over the phone, and then you came to Chicago in, I think it was December of 2009.
Okay.
Because we was getting it in 2010. You know, we went on getting it in at 2010. So
we did.
yeah, we got it in. And one of the
We got in the first time I came down there. We didn't do bad that first time.
Oh yeah.
And, we hit quite a few schools on that first trip.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, and we're gonna get a chance to talk a little bit more about that because we got video footage showing us in Chicago, in Champaign, Urbana, in Gary, and then you brought me to New Orleans because the Hot Boys and Turk and Cash Money, you know, those were some of the people you was working with down there in New Orleans. So we had a chance to do some work in the juvenile detention centers and everything. So we want to make sure we talk about it. A brother raised his hand and said, "Do you still play tennis from time to time?"
Only with my babies.
You got any prodigies?
Huh?
You got some prodigies? You got some tennis players over there?
Yeah. They in there. There they go right there. One of them right there running through the house right now. I don't mind him running through the house. That's exercise. So he runs from the front of the house to the back of the house. And he does that just about every day. Jump on the couch. I don't even mind him jump on the couch. Tear it up. We'll get another one. Get your exercise in. There he is right there.
Okay, we see him. You know, Rick, you don't advocate letting your children go outside and, you know, and be exposed to the environment during the shelter in place. What is your thinking on that? Because a lot of brothers have children and there's a lot of talk about what's real and what's not real. So with this, you know, novel coronavirus and everything, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I've been studying under the doctor, Dr. Leslie Ray Matthew, who is one of the foremost doctors probably in the world. One day we might look back and say, you know what, we had the greatest doctor living right in our time that lived. And he's told me a little bit about the virus. Well, not a little bit, a lot about the virus. I'll be modest if I say a little bit. And he told me that it would be best to keep my kids in the house as much as possible, wear masks when I go outside, wash my hands regularly, and stay on vitamin D, high doses of vitamin D. So that's what I've been doing. And you know, me and him laughed about it a couple weeks ago because I told him that in my particular area, none of my guys that I associate with has caught coronavirus, even though they don't totally believe in the theory, but they all started taking the vitamin D when I recommended it, because we found out that vitamin D did more than just boost your immune system. It also is a stimulant where you get more energy, and it gave you more sex drive as well. So when they found out that, when they found out that it gave you more sex drive, you know, they went crazy. So the whole neighborhood over there is walking around with vitamin D in their pocket. You know, vitamin D is really cheap. You really get it from the sun. But what Doc said is that by us being in the house so often, and this was before all the doctors started talking about vitamin D. You know, they all talking about vitamin D right now. I mean, you can go on CNN and they advertising it on CNN, but this was before any of them was saying it, before Tyler Perry started tweeting it, because I had set Doc up and he did an interview with Bishop Noel Jones, and Tyler Perry was on the call, and after he heard Doc talking, he went and did a Instagram video talking about vitamin D, and it was really wrong because he didn't even mention Doc's name inside of the thing, or he didn't reach out to Doc and ask Doc how could he assist him, because we've been trying to get Doc to the front line so that he could help more people with the virus, but it hasn't happened yet.
Wow. Real quick, I know you're about to leave, man. I just want to get some of these questions in from some of the guests. It's lighting up over here. First, real quick, we noticed you talking about how you know the health, your health and situation, how much you care about your health. It's ironic that even though in your past, is it correct that you actually, what was your position on taking drugs and drinking alcohol at the time? What was your position in your earlier?
I did neither one.
Neither one.
No, right now, you probably, if we added up all the alcohol I've drunk my life, and I've drunk more since I've been home, you know, because I one of my jobs is going to clubs, hosting parties. And so I have tossed a few bottles of champagne up since I've been home, but I would say that I probably haven't drunk more than 6 bottles of champagne in my entire life. And these past 10 years have probably been the most time that I've drunk. And that was because whoever was paying me to come to their party wanted me to drink a bottle of champagne with them to celebrate my birthday or some accomplishment that I had made. And I felt justified in doing a little champagne. Like in a couple of days, I'll be toasting. You know, I just crossed 200,000 on Instagram and followers on Instagram, so I'm gonna do a toast to that. But I've been really, you know, my tennis coach talked against getting high. You know, he used to tell me stuff like, if you had a race horse that was racing in the Kentucky Derby, would you get him drunk the night before? And the first thing I said was no. He said, well, you in the game of life right now. Your life should be the most important thing in your life. And if it is, why would you get drunk doing the most important thing in your life? And I totally agree with him.
You basically saying in any intoxicants, you wouldn't advise somebody to be dealing with their life, the most important thing, constantly being intoxicated. Is that what you're saying? Just
Correct.
Trying to make sure.
Absolutely. Okay. You hit it right on. You hit the hammer right, the nail right on the head with the hammer.
All right, we got a question from the brother Ray. He says, how does today's music culture dictate the outcome of our youth? How do you see today's music culture?
Well, I look at music the way I looked at Superfly myself coming up. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought that Ron O'Neal, the star Superfly, was a hero, somebody that should be looked up to. He lived a life that I wish I could live. He dealt with the police the way I wish that I could deal with police. And I'm sure that our young people, when they look at these rappers, they wish that they could live the life that most of these rappers live. And it's no wonder that they imitate them from start to finish, you know, where they believe that the rapper got his big break from selling drugs, and he could take a drug dealing career and turn it into a pot of gold like Jay-Z did, or some of these other guys who say that they sold drugs before they became rap stars.
Would you consider today's situation in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks with police brutality? Can you speak to ever having experienced any police brutality yourself?
What? Come on, man. They just took me down like 8 months ago. I was sitting, a friend of mine came in from, I think he came in from New Orleans, and he had booked one of those flights where they pick your hotel and your airline. So I picked him up, and I was taking him to the hotel, and it was in an all Hispanic community. And we were parked in the loading zone, and 2 cops pulled in, and they walked over to my car and asked me what was I doing there. And I told them, and they asked me for my ID and my insurance, and I gave it to them. And then they asked me was either one of us on parole. And I could only speak for myself. I didn't speak for my son. I said, no, I'm not on parole. Then they went over and asked my son, and my son told him he was on parole. They told us both to get out the car, and they wanted me to sit on the ground. I said, no, you might make him sit on the ground, because he might sit on the ground because he don't want to go to jail. I ain't sitting on the ground. I don't care if you take him to jail. But you're not going to disrespect me by making me sit on the ground. And I say, now you might take me to the ground, but I ain't sitting on the ground. And that's what they did. They took me to the ground. I was just fortunate that after watching the brother the other day that they didn't put my he didn't put his knee in my neck. He put his knee in my chest, which was still painful, but not to the point to where it would kill me.
What's some of the steps you think as Black men today, after noticing what's been going on, what's some of the next steps you think we should do as a community? Because it's bothersome to so many of us dealing with this and seeing, just like you just said, it's something with looking at your son and saying, man, you're not finna do this in front of my family. You're not finna do this in front of my son. You're not gonna do this.
If I lay down in front of my son, then that teaches him that he should lay down as well. And I don't want him to lay down. I want him to stand up. You know, when James Brown said it best, that I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And that's my mentality. That I wanna live on my feet. And if I had to get out on my knees and worship you and I don't know, all that crazy stuff that they want us to do, then I'm not gonna do it. And just, you know, there's no need for me to be here. There go my other tennis straw right there.
All right.
Somebody spoke about, they say Jaden spoke about, they read a little of your book, right? And they say it reminds them of the TV Snowfall.
Yeah, they stole my story. John Singleton stole my story. He was working with me on my movie script, and I was also shopping the TV series myself. And we looked up one day, and it was in the paper that he had got financed to do Snowfall. But that's not the first time, you know. That's how Hollywood do. They still, you know, they have blacks. They didn't want to deal with me, you know, because I don't care about their money. You know, they got to come with more than money with me. You know, you got to give me ownership, because I know your money. You just keep printing it. You just keep printing that money and printing that money. That money don't have no value, and the amount that they offered me wasn't substantial. So I was holding out, and you know, John was willing to bow down and give him my story, just with a different name.
It's when you speak about,
we're getting close to that 132. Go ahead.
Yeah,
though.
when you speak about just to go back and unpack something, you said that you had no father, right? And one thing that we noticed is that women often in our community, they see a mother figure to be able to mimic, whether it's a good mimic or a bad. They can look at a woman and say, this is how I'm supposed to be a mother. Do you have some advice for some of these young fathers on how to be a father to some of the young men who never had a father to actually look at?
Well, you know, one of the things that I found that I found was common when I was growing up. They used to say, "Don't be like nobody." Well, what I found out is that it's okay to be a copy. I mean, it's okay to be a copycat. Just make sure you copying the right cat. But so often we find ourselves copying the wrong people. You know, like with me, I was copying a dope dealer. And if I go to the dope dealer, you know what the dope dealer gonna give me? He gonna give me some dope. And that's exactly what happened. He gave me cocaine. So if I went to the banker, he probably would have gave me some money. So to find the right people to copy, and if you copy the right people, you're okay.
Enoch?
Yes. So, Rick, I know we get close to that time. We got to bring you back because guess what question just popped up?
You know what? If once I get dressed, it take me like 5 minutes. I can jump in the car. It's probably gonna work in the car too, so I can still go. The drive is about 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. So you want us to give you like 5 minutes and then you'll be able to get back on?
5 minutes. Yeah, give me 5 minutes. Yeah, give me 5
Man, we
minutes.
stand over here. We just gonna wait for him. We just gonna wait for him.
Okay, so Rick,
We're gonna take intermission right now. We're just intermission.
so it'll be
All right.
Sherry can do a mute and get more questions from everybody.
We can hold Rick, we can hold the space for you, man. Take your time. Just mute yourself.
All right, I'm on my way.
Video yourself.
I don't know how to mute
All right,
it.
we got
Let me see how to mute it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Sherry, can you mute his phone for him?
Yes, I will.
All right. So guys, everybody, please put your questions in the inbox. Raise your hand if you want to ask the questions yourself. If you want me to ask the questions for you, just put them in the inbox. It's a lot of information we can unpack here, man. The brother got so much information to actually give to understand. We got a lot of information we can get from the man. So while he here, man, let's get it. He gonna be back in the next 5 minutes. So please put all your questions in the inbox. Raise your hand if you have it in the chat box. Rather, raise your hand if you want to ask a question yourself. All right.
And I just want to say to those who may not like really be familiar with his story, because I found out today that everybody really don't know his story. They know the name, they may know the rapper, but they really don't know his story. Please, there's no such thing as a dumb question. It's only dumb if you don't ask. Go ahead and put those questions down that can give more clarity to who he is. Like I said, it's a couple of questions that's come through from some of you all, and there's some excellent questions. But it also shows me that you know some of his history, some of the questions that you all are raising. Those who have no idea about why the rapper took his name, you know, the rapper Rick Ross isn't the only rapper that's using his name and his lifestyle for entertainment purposes. You got a rapper called Freeway from Philly that was part of the Rockefeller with Jay-Z. He uses his name. I think there's one more person, Ali. I can't think of the other. Was a third person who used part of Rick's lifestyle, his former lifestyle. It's a third rapper. I can't think of the third rapper's name, but you get Rick Ross and then you get Freeway. But it's one more, and I'm quite sure Rick knows who it is. But
you know what, Brother Enoch, what I'll ask is, can you give some of the backstory why he's not here? Because I know a lot of people, we started before 3, so everybody that came in at 3 o'clock, because of the time constraints, Rick had to start about 5 minutes before 3, so we want to give you a little bio and backstory of who he is and why he's important to actually pay attention to.
okay, well, without me answering one of the questions that he's going to answer, because that was a good question, I think Brandon and somebody else brought up. You know, we all know that, you know, he spent time in prison for selling drugs, and this is at the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. And he didn't sell, you know, drugs by the kilos; he was selling it by the tons.
Metric tons. Those called metric tons.
Yeah, he was selling a whole bunch. So, you know, like I said, I don't want to answer certain questions. I want to give him an opportunity to say certain things. But
everybody go through things in life.
His story went around the world. It's an international story because of the politics that was involved in it. Also, if you need to mute your phone in your background.
Hey, Brother Knock, can you hear me?
Okay, Rick.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm good now.
Okay, I can hear you. So, Rick, we're going to jump right into it. Can you explain the involvement of the CIA in your story and the crack epidemic in general?
Yeah, well, the guy that I was getting my drugs from, he was a CIA operative. They was having a war. They were having a war over in Nicaragua, and the U.S. was backing the Contras, and the Russians was backing the Sandinistas. The Russians gave the Sandinistas $100 million. America.
You breaking up, Rick.
Only gave the Contras, I think, like $8 million. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you was breaking up. So if you want us to wait until you get in the car, we can.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you
Can
right.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so the Russians gave the Sandinistas $100 million. U.S. only gave the Contras, they only gave the Contras $8 million. So the Contras felt that they didn't have enough money to fight this war, so they took the money and they went and bought drugs with it. So they brought those drugs over to the U.S. because they had access to use the military plane and so forth. And they brought the drugs over here, and then I got the drugs, and I spread them through my community and eventually around the country.
So someone says, can
Ready
you
for this?
okay.
I didn't hear you.
With that said, why do you think do you feel like you were actually targeted in a situation where you say, man, someone came up with the idea to say, look, let's push this through the Black community, or do you feel that it was just coincidence that
I was looking for an opportunity. And I'd already been primed from the movie Superfly because I wanted to be like Superfly. So when cocaine came up, I identified cocaine as what gave Superfly his power. So I jumped on it. And I was willing to sacrifice my life for it or go to prison. And then when I got to prison, I found out that I was even willing to sacrifice my family as well to accomplish my goals. And the reason I said that is because I recruited my little brothers and my older brother. I recruited all of them in it, and my little sister, who at the time was probably only about 16 years old. But I taught her how to sell drugs as well.
someone, Jerome Anderson is asking, how is it that the major drug supplier like El Chapo gets less time in prison than a person like Larry Hoover?
Well, they both got the same amount of time. They probably right next to each other. Both of them in ADX. Larry Hoover's in ADX. El Chapo will be in ADX. So he won't get no more time. They both will die in prison unless we do something major for Larry, which a lot of people are trying to do, including myself.
That's right. How do you feel about entertainers taking, and I know you speak to this before, how do you feel about entertainers taking and starting to use your name without authorization?
I think that it's wrong. We as the Black community, they've always taken our stuff, our inventions, you know, the things that we created, what they call intellectual property for themselves.
If you can hear us, Rick, we can't hear you. I don't know if his phone dropped, because I don't see his video or the audio. But before he comes back on, I'll just say this. Over these past 11 years of us working together, he's been fighting Universal, which is owned by Seagram's. You know, he's been fighting them in regards to his name rights. And one of the realities that we have to face is that with all the creativity we have as Black people, we really got to recognize that the things that we do, we should have ownership of it. And if you don't fight for your ownership rights, people will go on your Facebook page, take all your creative ideas and use them. They'll go on your Instagram page, and you can look this up on Google. Advertising companies go to the trend makers, which are predominantly young people. They go to our Instagram pages, they go on Snapchat or TikTok, and they just check out what we do. And then you'll be surprised to see it on a commercial. You know,
hey, didn't he say he got other brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, but look, I'm looking at his thing, his little bio and shit. They got Ricky, Donnell, Freeway, Rick Ross, right? But they got only his siblings. They only got up here David Ross, and his parents Annie Mae Ross and Sonny Ross. You feel me? And it's like a lot of stuff, you know, like I was just looking, you know, been looking at a lot of stuff because I've been sending some stuff to Ali a little while back. You know what I'm saying? We first found out, you know, we was gonna be interacting with Rick Ross, you know, with him or whatever. And it's just like a lot of stuff. Like it was funny that you even talked about Freeway. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't know. People really thought he was when he was saying Freeway, they was thinking he was talking about the Philadelphia Freeway. You know what I'm saying? But that's what the cover up was. You know what I'm saying? They was really talking about Fool. You know what I'm saying? Just like how they was talking about Rick Ross from Miami. This nigga was the Jakes. How could he ever sell drugs? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I couldn't understand. Like, dude was the whole police, Joe. And you trying to act like you fool just like 50 Cent. the nigga 50 Cent was really a killer in New York. Like, he really was a robber. You know what I'm saying? The rapper 50 Cent ain't nothing like the real nigga who, you know what I'm saying? If he would have never got out of jail in 09, we wouldn't have knew nothing about his story. You know what I'm saying? If the real Rick Ross wouldn't have got out in 09, bro, we wouldn't have knew shit about him. They wouldn't have let us knew about him. You know what I'm saying? We would have kept thinking that Fat Boy was the real Rick Ross.
Well, you know Brandon, that's the whole idea, Brandon, of when it comes to entertainment. You know, if you don't understand like why they're doing what they're doing, like it's not a coincidence that Black Death pays. That's not a coincidence. There's more investment on Black Death than Black wealth production or Black financial literacy and increasing our ability to understand how to use, you know, the financial institutions for our own elevation. It's a reason why there's an investment in certain things and a disinvestment in other things. So you're absolutely correct. If we didn't have a way to put some things out there, we wouldn't have known. And that's one of the reasons why we have to keep exposing things so that we can know, so then we can make better decisions to be a stronger people. Somebody had a question.
You know what? No, this is actually a must. If it's
I
nothing
got me a
else,
question.
if it's nothing else, that
Did he just say he was working with the police?
No, he didn't.
Rick
say
Ross, the rapper Rick Ross.
The rapper Rick Ross was a police officer.
I'm talking about he just said with the CIA.
Yeah, that's the police boy he was getting them things from.
Did he just say they gave him $100 million and he was in charge of distributing?
No. That he said that Russia gave the opposition of the Contra.
They gave them communists, man, that $100 million, man.
They gave them
the
$100 million.
Sandinistas 100.
The Sandinistas $100 million.
Yeah, Josh, we're talking about a war that was going on, and at the time the government was backing different parts of those who were fighting the war. And basically, in order to fundraise for the war, they used us as the guinea pigs, basically,
right.
Made money off crack cocaine, but that was all part of a setup. And a lot of this information is online, so you can look it up. And somebody asked a question about the movie Kill the Messenger.
Look, Mr. Enoch.
That is a good movie, and it does talk about Freeway Rick Ross and his life in that movie, Kill the Messenger.
But let's unpack something real quick so we can get a real understanding of who we talking to and what area it was and how important it was. When you're talking about a country being at war, Russia funding one side of the country, $100 million, Ronald Reagan saying, the U.S. saying, no, we only gonna give $8 million to the other side of that country, the rebels of that country. And then those people saying, we really can't do nothing with $8 million. In America saying, the government or the CIA saying, well, we'll allow you to bring some things in and you can actually operate. You know, if you're gonna sell drugs, you can make your $100 million this way. But it surpassed the $100 million when they actually brought the drugs in. And another thing we need to pay a lot of attention to is they didn't just come with the position of we bringing in cocaine, because if they just brought in powder cocaine, that's one thing. The invention of crack cocaine came along with that process, right? Powder cocaine, crack cocaine, the addiction was totally different. Someone became instantly addicted to something they would get high off of, and the high would last for 10, 15 minutes after that, and then they'd come down, they'll want it just as bad as they wanted it the first time, or even they'll crave it more. Just imagine being hungry, eating something, and then being hungrier than when you first was hungry in the first place. That's what the addiction actually did. So they came with a trick bag. The brother played a major part in the supply of it, distribution rather, not the supply, but the distribution of it. And then we have what we have today.
That's a very big thing, Brother Ali, that you just
said. So basically, it's Ross' fault. Because he was that guinea pig.
Well,
where's you getting that from? He wasn't no guinea pig or nothing. He was just trying to sell some drugs. He didn't know about that other shit. He just got the drugs.
I said.
Well, it's just like any of us on this call. If you're not aware that you're being used and you're just trying to feed your family, because you don't know how to read, you don't have no marketable skills, you don't feel like you got a way to make a way, and somebody older than you say, hey, man, take some of this and you know, you can make you some money off of it. You know, you don't have the thought in mind that you're about to now become the biggest distributor of cocaine all over the world and crack cocaine. You know, that's, you're talking about a 19-year-old, you know.
But let's go a little deeper than that. When we look at young brothers today taking pills, right, because it's new, we don't know what it's going to look like 15 years from now. We don't know what lean is going to do 15 years from now. Back then, when crack came, nobody, because it was new, no one knew what it would do later on, that people would be, you know, abandoning children, doing anything. No one knew that that was going to be the effect of it until it already had started to take place. Same thing when we look at the brothers, you know, brothers taking pills, no knock, but it's like, you don't even know the effect that's going to happen when you turn 30, 35, 40 years old.
Hey, some of the effect, Ali, we are seeing, because there's an increase in dialysis centers in Black neighborhoods in particular, and the kidneys and liver failure is increasing at a fast rate. When you put something together and you don't know what the hell they put in it, but you pop it, then that chimney stack or that Facebook or that Instagram or them dolphins or whatever it is that you took, they could tell you it's one thing, but it might be 15 ingredients in there, and 2 or 3 of them you may not even know was even part of it. And so a lot of people are experiencing kidney and liver failure because of things they're putting in their body, not to mention the regular quote unquote stuff, whether you drink a lot of alcohol or you don't drink water, so you have those kind of issues. But then you accelerate it when you start taking in different types of pills that you don't know what the combinations are, you don't know what the ingredients are. All you know is you know, it got me fucked up, but at what's the cost? And so you got a lot of young people that are having some serious problems. And you know, some of you all on here may be having problems with your kidneys and liver, and you really don't know that it might be caused by something like that. You might think it's an injury from sports or something else, you know, but if you're feeling them kind of pains, you should most definitely get it checked out. I'm seeing a couple more questions that pop up, Brother Ali. Okay.
Maybe you can speak to some of those.
Okay, so let me say this. You know, some of you all was in a session that we had where we showed a clip from a movie called Lord of War with Nicolas Cage. And in that movie, it showed a bullet being produced in an ammunition manufacturing plant. And it showed it in the raw by it being a piece of metal. And then it went from being a metal to being shaped as a bullet. You had somebody inspecting the bullet. Then you had that bullet, the camera showed it on a conveyor belt, and it went into a box. Then you saw it, you know, get shipped into a plane. Then it went to a boat. Then it went to a truck. And then it went into a conflict in some war in some war-torn country, and it being loaded up. And then you saw the bullet being projected at somebody and of course hitting them. And that whole image is showing you that whether we're talking about drugs, whether we're talking about guns, no matter what we're talking about in terms of the actual element, anything that destroys you, that destroys your neighborhood, that destroys your people, all of us got an expiration date. None of us gonna live forever. So the reality is that everything that we're doing in this session really points to something that Rick said earlier, which is, man, I had to change the narrative by looking at myself as the architect of my own life. I'm the architect. I can't keep just blaming this person, that person. I got to look at what the hell am I doing? What choices am I willing to make? If I say I want to be on the green side of this map, then yeah, I might have missed straight and narrow road because I went to jail at 15. You know, I had my first piece of work put in my hand at 17. And my guy was talking about how to take a 16th and flip it to a quarter O. So I might have missed the straight and narrow path because my environment didn't push me on that. But when I got on recovery road, I had to make a decision to turn up. on something positive. Everybody on this call, I believe you on this call because you want better. You don't want to be stuck in the bullshit. You want to be like, man, I really want to be on that positive drive. So then the question becomes, how do you feed the positive? Because where we live is not always positive, you know? So the question that we really are getting to is, man, what can we extract from this brother's life story where he had a deficit, didn't know how to read, 27 years of age, didn't know how to read. His attorney, the part he didn't tell y'all, his attorney told him, if you don't want to get out of jail more than I want you to get out of jail, then your ass ain't getting out. Because he knew he couldn't read his own paperwork. And so Rick had to humble himself and talk with his cellie and tell his cellie, look here, hey man, I don't know how to read and I need some help because I need to help fight my own case because they just gave me a life sentence. And so after he took that initiative and began learning how to read, then he helped other brothers learn how to read, and he also helped to fight their cases. So on one hand, you got one principle you got to do for self and face your deficits. But when you face your deficits, you get a key that you can help other people to unlock their deficits, because other brothers couldn't read either. So he started a book club where he was showing brothers how to read. So 3 of the books that he always talk about in his interviews, The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, and As a Man Thinketh. Those 3 books are 3 books that he was rotating around, not only in where he was locked up at, but then in other penitentiaries. They started reading those books because the information in those books have principles that you and I can use right now, regardless of where we at in life.
Hey, what books you say they was again?
Think and Grow Rich. And you got different versions of it, you know, by Dennis Kimbrough and Napoleon Hill, but both of them are great. So you got Think and Grow Rich. And that book is all about the author speaking to billionaires and finding out their secrets when it comes to their secrets for success, and looking at what's the formula. What is it that I have to do? You get billions of dollars. How do, you know, what do you do to even get in that mindset? And how do you prepare yourself? And how do you stay resilient? How do you determine to, you know, to be successful like that, you know, with all the different odds that you may face? So that book is excellent when you want to get the recipe, you know, when you want to learn different recipes. And then, you know, like I said, you got Dennis Kimbrough, Think and Grow Rich, and you got Napoleon Hill. Both those books are great. Then you got The Richest Man in Babylon, which really gives some great parallels about people who have been in bondage and enslaved. And the biggest bondage that we could face right now that we got to get free from is the bondage of false ideas and false concepts, especially about yourself. Because if we got the idea in our heads that we really don't matter, that we, you know, man, we ain't shit. If that's a thought that we have about ourselves, that anybody that looks like us, that will be conferred upon them. Because as a man thinketh, in his heart, so is he. So The Richest Man in Babylon got actual stories dealing with how to relieve yourself of a slave mindset. So then you can own Babylon, literally, in the book. It's different parallels. And then the book, As a Man Thinketh, you know, that book deals with the thought process. And some of you all probably remember us having that conversation about R. Kelly-itis. I know y'all remember R. Kelly-itis, man, where your mind be telling you no, and your body be telling you something totally different. That war that goes on within ourselves, you know, the spirit at war with the mind, the emotion at war with the body, and you don't have no unity within yourself. And then you all of a sudden now want to connect with somebody else, but you got war going on within you. So that means conflict is bound to happen because you don't have no peace in self. But when you're able to take those different elements of yourself, your spirit, your mind, emotion, and body, and you control it, you run it. You know what I mean? You controlling the government of yourself. You the king that's sitting on the throne in your dome. And you telling your spirit, your mind, emotion, and body, you telling them what to do. I know that might sound strange to some of y'all. I don't know if this sounds strange or not, but how many of y'all ever had that experience where you in your own mind told yourself something to do, and then something else came after it in your own head, and you did just the opposite. And as soon as you did it, you said, damn, I should have followed my first mind. Whoever had that experience, honestly, some of you all can admit to that. I've had that experience.
Facts.
So when you have that experience,
Everybody.
we had that experience, that's something in us that's trying to prevent us from doing the right thing, the right way, for the right reason, so we can get the right result. And that's one of those 3 books helps us to be able to build our strength, because, man, we all can get weak at certain times. Some of us always face them kind of battles, but this is an opportunity for us to learn, how to get strength.
Just before we leave, 4 o'clock is approaching. Before we leave, man, we do want to say we appreciate every brother for coming in, checking out the episode, and we're trying to have Rick be present next week to do a part 2. We know it was short based on technical difficulties and scheduling and West Coast and Central Time. So that was a glitch, but we're gonna make it back up to you guys, and I hope you guys got something from this today. Anyway, really, I do want y'all to pay attention to some of the things that's transpiring in the world today, man. As young black men and women, man, we really facing. We got a real battle going on, man, and we have to come together, unite, and do what's right, man. We point guns at each other, not even safe to point guns at somebody else, but we taking each other out and other people taking us out, and our life is very showing up like we are very worthless, man, and it's emotional for me because I'm a black man. I'm a black man in this society, and I'm trying to do the right thing, but at the same time, it bothers me when I don't even know what to tell my son when the police around. When I'm really saying, dude, is they your friend or your foe? Do you smile? When my son say want to be a police one day, they all say that at one time. I want to be a police. You looking at your son like, damn, that might not even be the best thing for you because they don't like people like me and you. You get what I'm saying? So that's a real issue that we dealing with. I know as a father, I'm dealing with that. I know as a father, some of you guys dealing with that. But as men, as black men in America, we got to come together and put the bullshit to the side, man, and really sit down, man, and figure out how we gonna make it this a better place for our children. Because we gonna be here, man. We gonna be here. And I'm not hearing a lot of entertainers speak up on this thing. And every entertainer you see not speaking up, pay close attention to that too, man, because they letting you know they making a drawing in the sand right now. They're not raising attention to what's really going on, and that's been going on. It's gonna be some people try to calm some stuff down, and I ain't talking about tearing up things. I'm talking about the police. Watch those people too, man. Watch those people, man. Pay close attention, man. We right now at a real position where we really need to unite, come together, stop the bullshit in Roseland, on the west side, in Inglewood, come together, put them guns down, man. Let's figure out a way we gonna live, man, because ain't nobody trying to die. Ain't nobody just out here trying to die. And if we gonna die for something, let's die for trying to make it better for somebody else, man. Let's stop dying over shit that don't make sense to nobody but somebody to put the name on our shirt for what? How long? Till the next person die. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people dying out. So many of our young brothers out here dying, man, leaving kids behind. And we know ain't nobody looking out for them kids. Not even not wanting to, but man, not really even having an opportunity to look out for. You know what I'm saying? So we got to take that up on ourselves and really do this, man. Guys, let's tune in next week. Please RSVP. Please send suggestions in who y'all want to see. Please, we gonna send a questionnaire. I'll fill out the questionnaire. Everything y'all write, man, we take heed to. We try to really be on top of it, man. Y'all position is better, is more important than ours, man. Y'all the future, so please take the time out to fill out the information. RSVP, it only take a minute. Man, we're gonna bring Rick Ross back next week, and we're gonna have a good time, man. Y'all gonna be able to ask these questions, man, but keep that on y'all mind, man. Let's unite, man. It ain't gonna get right until we unite. They say God don't help a people until they help themselves, man. We got to help ourselves, man.
Brother Ali, also I want to let people know the event that Rick was talking about, where they're talking about having over 6,000 people at this event, you all can also join the event. If you go on Facebook to Hip Hop Detox page, that's HIPHOPDETOXX, like the page, hit me in the inbox, because we're gonna either have that go live on the Hip Hop Detox page, and if there's room inside of the actual Zoom, I'll be able to send you a link for those who have an interest in actually being part of that. But they got people all over the country. I'm talking about, I think Steven Jackson, who was friends with the brother in Minneapolis, George Floyd that was killed. I think people like that, certain athletes, certain leaders, whether they spiritual, political, etc. A lot of different people are coming together. People from different parts of the city, of the country actually, are coming together. So I don't know all the other details, but as soon as I talk to Rick and he sent me the information, I'm gonna put it on the page. And then if you want to actually be part of it, again, I'll send it to you. And then those who can't get in, we'll just look to go live on Hip Hop Detox this weekend, all right?
Hey guys, before we leave, man, please do some homework on the brother, the real Rick Ross, man. So next week, y'all got some real pertinent answers and questions for the man. Do y'all homework on the man, do a little homework, scratch the surface. A lot of documentaries, a lot of stuff on Vlad, all kind of stuff. Y'all can find something on them so y'all can really ask some good questions, man. I know y'all got that in y'all. So God willing, man, we're gonna see y'all next week, man. Y'all be blessed.
Peace.
Peace.